Hello, hello, hello. This is Shalita, the nonprofit Easter O'Neill, and I'm so glad you were able to join us for our Network Marketing for Nonprofits webinar. Um, I wanted to give you a little bit more about who I am and why this webinar is so important and the concept of what I'm trying to explain regarding network marketing for nonprofits. So, as you may have already heard, I actually have been doing nonprofit coaching for a number of years. I myself started a organization about 10 years ago with the purpose of helping young adults who came from the foster care system. And I learned so many lessons from that. I learned, different challenges that I encountered working with the population and just learning more about how to be a nonprofit executive. And one of those challenges, one of the big challenges was always raising money and being creative about the different ways that we raise money. And especially as me starting out as a one-woman show, which a lot of us do, right? You might be a nonprofit exec that is wearing so many different hats that you may not even have an opportunity to hold your head up from all the day-to-day work and focus on fundraising or actually how to be deliberate about raising funds. And a lot of people will think it's just about grant writing. Okay, well, I'll get a proposal, I'll write a proposal, I'll be just fine, and I'll get all this money in and I'll be able to do my work. But I'm here to tell you that it's all about people. It's all about resources that come from individuals, not necessarily grants, even though grants are very helpful. And there's different types of revenue streams that can come in to help support your work. But I'm here to give you a model that's, for me, it has simplified the fundraising, or I'd say people raising process, because I have been in so many different network marketing companies, and whether or not they worked for me personally at the time, they did, but it's about the time that you put into it. It's not necessarily about the companies, and I want to be clear about that. I'm not promoting or not promoting, or discouraging you from looking into network marketing companies for yourself. That's not what this webinar is about. This webinar is about using the principles of network marketing and what successful network marketing companies actually do to help increase the people that they're attracting to their organizations and to their business and to increase revenue. So there's a way that they do things, and it's not necessarily brand new. It's not a new concept. Y'all know I always say there is nothing new under the sun. It's just how the flavor, right, that you bring to it is what will make it new. And it's exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to network marketing and the principles that they have pulled together, the way that they have done that with word of mouth, with storytelling, has really helped to make their model successful. And I'm here to tell you that you can apply that same model, the model and the principles, to the very work that you do with your organization, so that you are deliberate about how you are raising funds, how you are tapping into your networks and the networks of people who want to support you in order to bring in sustainable funding. So I hope that all makes sense, and I hope that you're energized and that you're excited about this, and that that although you may feel inadequate, although you may feel like you don't know what you're doing, sometimes some of my clients will say, why should I be doing this? Who am I to do this? I don't know anybody. I want you to know that when I started my first nonprofit organization, I had just aged out of the foster care system. I was only 25 years old, and I was only a few years out of foster care, still trying to figure myself out. But I was able to build a lucrative nonprofit organization. I was able to raise millions of dollars for that organization because of the principles that I'm about to go through with you on this webinar. So do not be discouraged. Know that this is possible. It's just you have to be deliberate about how you go about building out your network. It can't just be something haphazard. Okay? So let us get started. I'm sharing my screen now because I want to begin the presentation. So it's a little bit more about who I am. I told you that. and why we're here and why it's important. Okay, you need to get to the business of changing the world, the business of taking that vision that's in your mind and making it real, because there's somebody's life that's depending on it. So what do you need to do? You need to prepare. Okay, get ready to be able to start telling people about your organization. I know that you're excited about it. I know it's been something you've been dreaming about, that's on your mind. I get that, and you're excited, but there are some things that you want to make sure that you pay attention to before you start telling people about your organization. So the first thing that I always like to say is make sure that you are ready to get started. Okay, and these are some of the ways. So just to give you an idea of the type of person that you are trying to engage, you don't want just anyone that wants to be an ambassador. When I say ambassador, this is a volunteer. This is somebody who wants to help you spread the word about your organization, who has heard about you through their networks and they're excited and they want to volunteer their time. This can also be your board members should be ambassadors. First and foremost, the first set of ambassadors that you will be recruiting are your board members. So this is the type of people that you should be looking out for. An ambassador should have a high level of professionalism. Keep in mind, these are people that are going to be representing your organization when you are not around. And once you build your network so big and so broad, you may not even know these people, right? You may not have be at their events that they're hosting for you, because you would have done such a great job of growing your network, and the ambassadors that you know would have recruited other ambassadors, and so on and so forth. And so when we start talking about network marketing and how in that world they're called independent business owners, and you know, it's a different title, and it's about for profit, but it's the same concept. It's about building networks. It's about tapping in to the networks of the people who they're bringing to the organization. So you want to make sure they have a high level of professionalism. You want to make sure that they're able and interested in gathering and providing feedback and insight, because this is a two-way thing. You're going to want them to go out and share the word, you know, about your organization, but you're also going to want them to be able to come back to you and articulate what are some things that you can do better, what are some things that they're seeing, how can you improve, and how can you support them. You also want them to have a passion for building and growing relationships. Again, fundraising is all about relationships. It's about who knows you. It's about who's willing to carry your message to their networks. You want to make sure they have an established online presence, and that's positive. So we're talking about Facebook, we're talking about Instagram, we're talking about Twitter, LinkedIn. Make sure that you are people who are saying they want to be ambassadors for your organization. You take a look. It might be a little, you know, Facebook stalk, and it's okay. But you take a look and you see what type of image are they putting out there, because understand that that's the type of image that is going to be reflected on you and your organization. So make sure that, one, they have an established online presence, because one of the biggest things that we're doing is tapping into the networks of ambassadors, and it's not a sneaky thing. They are signing up and want to help you do that. This is actually intentional. They want to help you get connected to their people. So make sure that they have an established online presence, and it's one that jives, right? Or that gels with the mission and the image of your organization. They should also have natural leadership skills, because again, as an ambassador, they're also going to be engaging their networks, and they're going to be the leader of their networks, or the ambassadors that they bring on. So you want to make sure that they have some strong leadership, natural leadership skills. Everyone's a leader, right? But you want to make sure that they are effective and efficient leaders, and they have those skills and they feel comfortable with doing that. And also knowledge of, or just an appreciation for marketing. Okay, these are things that they're not set in stone. It's not that every single ambassador is going to have every single one, but this is just something to give you an idea. You can't just cast a broad net and say anyone and everyone that wants to come and be an ambassador for me, I'm here for it. No, you have to have some sort of vetting process. You have to be specific about what your expectations are, because as you know, with anything, what you put out there is exactly what you're going to get. Okay, so that's just something to help you out with that. So as I was saying before about branding, you want to make sure that when I say branding, I mean logo, I mean your website, your promotional materials, whether you have, you know, videos that are posted up on online or on your social media pages or on your website, you want to make sure that you're thoughtful about those things. And I know sometimes, we have this mentality that if we look like we need help, then we'll get more help. We don't want to look like we have things together because then people will think we don't need anything. That is not true. It might be successful. You might be successful in getting someone to feel sorry for you and say, oh my God, their marketing, it's so horrible. Oh, they really need help. They're really struggling. And they may give you a few dollars, but they are definitely not going to share your information with their networks. Because why? Because they're going to be embarrassed. You don't want people to be embarrassed of you and feel sad and sorry for you. You want people to be proud to share your information with other people. I had a board member of mine when I first met her, and she saw my marketing materials and my website, and she said, oh my goodness, you look like you have been around for a long time. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you really put thought into this. Do you really need my help? Right? And I'm like, no, it's not. It's not. I do need your help, but it's the fact that I care enough about my organization and its image to do the best that I possibly can with what I have. And nowadays, with all of the software, with all of the different resources that you have at your fingertips that are free and affordable, to make sure that your marketing is crisp and clear, there's no excuse for making people feel sorry for you because you look unorganized or disorganized. So your branding, make sure it's crisp, clean, professional. Make sure it's consistent across platforms. So if your website has certain colors and your logo has certain colors, use those colors on your social media pages. Use those colors on your promotional materials. Make sure that you are consistent, because that's part of your brand. You don't want to confuse people. You want people to know exactly what you stand for. And then let's say you have all of that covered. Those are your bases that you have covered, and you're ready to start sending people to the website. Okay, well, make sure you have information on your website about what an ambassador is, and as we go forward, and I will go a little bit more deeper into what is an ambassador, and what the role description is, and some expectations that you can have. Then you can tweak the job description yourself. I actually, as I promised you all, you have access to the free ebook about this, Network Marketing for Nonprofits. And I go into very deep detail in that ebook about how to actually build this out for yourself. And it also includes links to videos as well as templates for you. So there's an ambassador role description template in there, and an application that you can use as a template to put on your website. Because you want people, that's the first place that you're sending people to, is your website. So you want to make sure you have those things available there for people, okay? And this is just overview. We'll go a little bit more into the implementation and what this can look like in different sections afterwards. We're going to go into deep detail about the types of money that you can raise using the network marketing for nonprofits model. But just here, like I just said, developing an ambassador role description, which I give you a template to in the ebook that I just mentioned. You also, again, want to update your website to reflect that ambassador information in the application, so people can use Google Forms. You can embed the application on your website on one of your tabs. So if I'm interested, I can let me go ahead and give them my information, and that way you can start vetting people. Everyone who applies should not become an ambassador. Just want to let you know that. And then develop your marketing materials, and we'll take a look at some of you can let's go here. I want to show you. So one thing that I really liked about this organization, is called Girl Up, is that they have resources on their website that if you want to advocate for them or be what we call an ambassador for them, look how they have handouts. They have a backgrounder or the organization, an impact flyer, different resources that people are going to need in order to effectively advocate. You don't want people to create a brand for you or try to, create materials for you that's going to be inconsistent with your brand. So make sure that on your website you do things like this. Look here, we have branding. What are the style guides? What are the guidelines associated with how can people use your information? Your logos. If you want people to spread the word about you, give them your materials, photos that they can use of your work that you've actually done in the community so that they can engage their networks. Girl Up, not only are they doing wonderful things and having programming for young women around the world, this is an international organization, but they are also making it very easy for other people to be able to advocate and spread the word about them. It's ingenious. Okay, so I wanted to just show you this as an example of what you could do as well. Then we're talking about having, in which we'll go into deeper detail about this as well later on, is you need to have a way of capturing those people who are saying they want to be ambassadors for you. When I say capture, I mean their contact information. I mean, how more information about them. How can you reach out to them? You want to, and how, and make it easier for them to be able to do the same thing. So I encourage you to look into different peer-to-peer fundraising platforms, and Mobile Cause is one of them. I do not get any, not getting any affiliate promotions or payments for that, but I just mention them because I've used them in the past and I really like their platform. So, Mobile Cause, take a look at that. And also designate a board member as an ambassador chair, or make sure that you have people on your board that can be the contact and the support for the ambassadors that you are going to be recruiting and engaging. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later on too, but I just wanted to put this up front and center for this to be in your mind. Okay? So next, we're talking about recruitment. Okay? So again, drawing the parallel between network marketing companies or the network marketing world and recruitment. There are things that you have at your fingertips to be able to get the word out there about who you are, what you're doing, and to get people piqued. And if you are familiar with network marketing language in the world, it's piquing, when you're piquing someone's interest, when you want to tell them about your business, in this case, your organization, your nonprofit organization. So here are a few ways to do that. You want to make sure that you're using your social media. We are in a day and time where, okay, everybody is on social media. Everybody is using Facebook or Twitter, or there are millions and billions, okay, people. So you may feel a little inadequate or discouraged or incompetent when it comes to social media. If this is you, I encourage you to step outside of that comfort zone and learn a little bit more about it, because again, there's so many different things and resources that are out there to help you become more comfortable with it. And for these different mediums and these platforms are pretty intuitive. So please step outside your comfort zone, because yes, although there are people who still communicate via writing a letter and sending it in the mail, the vast majority of people, especially the pool of people that you're going to be tapping into about your organization, they are online. So let's get with it and stop fighting and pushing against what's really happening out here if you really want to be successful and growing your networks. So use your social media, your website. Make sure you attend networking events. Get out of your comfort zone, because that's the only way you're going to learn about what's going on in your community, what's going on with other organizations that may be doing similar work, or that aren't really doing similar work, but that are out there and connected, because it's a small world. You'll be surprised at who knows who and who does what. So make sure you extend yourself to see what's going on at other people's events, support other people's events, because I always say that if you want support, then you need to give support. And the types of people that you will be meeting at these networking events and telling them more about your organization, they have larger organizations or networks as well. And then you can get connected to theirs and also potential funders. So the only way, you're really going to be able to get a pulse on what's going on in the community is if you actually go to other people's events and you even sit on different committees. I'd say become a board member of someone else's, a larger organization. Okay. You could become a board member of a fledgling organization as well. But my purpose in telling you that is that you want to see from the inside what a larger organization looks like. How does it operate? Because you're going to be taking notes. This is what you're going to be wanting to apply some of this information. So first and foremost, you should be doing these types of things and collecting information and research and really understanding what is it that you are getting involved in. You have a passion, but you need the information and the education to go along with it. Sometimes we bust up in the scene like, hey, I'm just starting this new nonprofit organization and I'm gonna help kids that have disabilities. Okay, well, what else do you know about these children with disabilities? Have you been talking to some of the organizations that have been in the community for years working with this population? Have you been a part of collaboratives that have been trying to come up with solutions for these young people or this population? How much do you really know, and how much are you really connected with the people who are on the ground with this issue? If you don't have the answer to that, or if you can't say that you are connected and that now because you've been connected you are creating something that has a niche, then I would encourage you to dig a little deeper and spend a little bit more time in the community, and going to networking events and talking about your organization, and what you want to do, but also inviting people to give you feedback about that. So for those people that you're meeting that are like, yeah, this is great, I love what you're doing, now you see why we said on your website, make sure that your branding is something that you are proud of first and foremost, and that others will be proud of to share, because you're going to be directing people first and foremost to your website to learn more about who you are and the opportunity for them to become an ambassador for you and to apply for it to be an ambassador for you. Okay. So that's one way. So we're talking about, all right, well, how do I sell my organization? Let's go back because I don't think we sell. Bam, sell. That's where we're going. Sell. How do you sell your organization? Again, I'm going to tie this all back into the network marketing companies' principles and the way that they do things. They rely heavily on storytelling and understanding what your why is. And what that means is, why are you doing what you're doing? What are those things, or what is that thing that when times are getting hard and you're thinking about giving up, that redirects you and brings you back to your commitment, right? What are those things? So you need to have a good understanding of your why. Is it your children? Is it you? But I encourage you to look outside of yourself when it comes to those things, because we are so used to not keeping our promises to ourselves. We'll say, okay, well, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and you'll say, oh, nobody knows. I'll just go the day after and the day after, and we put it on. Or I'm going to start this new diet or this new eating habit. And then you don't share that with other people, and so no one can hold you accountable. Where's the accountability with that? If your why or your children and they see you trying to make this dream come to life, or your why is your mom or your dad or someone close to you or something close to you, or your vision is so much bigger than you, and you will not allow yourself to not follow through. That's what you mean by, what is your why? What is that thing that is going to keep you when you feel like, when you get those no's, when you ask people for money and they say, no, we don't want to support you, or no, I don't want to meet with you about your organization, and you feel like the whole world is crashing down, what is going to snap you out of it and say, you need to keep going? So identify what is that is so much bigger than you, that will snap you back when you feel like you don't want to continue. You have to get good at telling your story, and telling your story in a concise way. You don't need to rip open all the details about something, that might make people, that might do the opposite of what you want people to do. Yes, you want to pull on heartstrings, but you don't want to pull on them so much that you make people uncomfortable, because then they feel like, what am I going to do with that information? I work with young people who are aging out of foster care, and sometimes people like them to come and do panels and share their perspective of their life. And I tell them, okay, well, I have to prepare them first. And I tell the young people, and I say, listen, you have to know what is your purpose of sharing what you share, because once you put it out there, you cannot take it back. So if you start talking about some sexual abuse or something very sensitive that happened to you, and you go into really grim, dark details, ask yourself, one, is this helping? Right? It may make people cry, but what is it actually doing? They're crying and they feel completely helpless and hopeless, and you run the risk of them also looking at you like you're damaged goods and all this other type of stuff that we tend to do as human beings. So be very deliberate about what you share. And yes, it's gonna tug on some heartstrings, okay? But it also needs to be balanced out with why should people care? So, why you started the organization, what personal connection do you have to it is extremely important. Who will your organization benefit and why did you choose this population? That's important too. You want to make sure you include the statistics about what you're trying to address, because you have people who are moved by emotion and you have people that are moved by fact. And so you need to be able to touch and communicate with both types of people if you want to be successful with growing your networks. And the question with everything is, why should anybody care? It means a lot to you while you're starting your organization. It means a lot to you that you're going to build this organization that's going to change the world. But you have to be very clear about, how does that affect other people? When you have the attention of others and you're talking about how great your organization is, okay, well, how does that affect them? How does it relate to them? If I'm talking to someone about foster care and these foster youth and why they should really care about them, but they don't really, one, know what foster care is, or even think that they know anyone that's been in foster care, or what they've heard of foster care is negative, then they're going to be like, okay, that's not my problem. Okay, well, maybe if I bring it home to the fact that you're living in the communities, your children are going to the same schools as these young people that are in foster care. So if they don't have a good experience, your children are not going to have a good experience, right? These children are our future. When all of our children are thriving and have what they need and have the love and the support that they need, we all benefit. And then it's like, oh, and then when you bring it home to them and you say, well, how did you get to where you are? It was someone that poured into you, that loved on you, that, whether it's your parents or someone, someone else that was really supportive. And look at you now, right? Why don't these children deserve the same thing? And then you get people thinking, okay. So make sure, it's similar to a 30-second pitch that we talk about, when we are talking about business, or, people are marketing themselves individually. We talk about those things, but it's similar to that. And these are the things that you should make sure that your story includes, or at least, touches on, so that you can be clear, concise, and clear again about why what you're doing is really important. And bringing it back to network marketing again, have you ever been invited to an interest meeting, or a launch event, so to speak, and as part of the introduction you have people that get up and talk about why the organization is so important to them and tell their story, and then the people that are there as guests are like, wow. And that's another thing. It's not just about your story. It's about the story of the people that you're helping. So if you are working with young people I always use foster care as an example because that's my world, but insert it with what the population you work with. But for me, if I'm having an event, a fundraiser or a launch event, I'm not only going to share my personal story of foster care, but I'm also going to have a young person who I'm currently working with, or who could benefit from what I'm saying I'd like to do, to come and share their story. Because it's not just about you, it's about the people that you are going to be working with and for. And so when you do that, you have your ambassadors that are there at your, whether it's your event or it could be another event, but whoever that you have in front of you, that you share your story, as well as those who give room for those who you're helping to share their story, because it's all about storytelling every single part of the way. Okay. So the next thing is your call to action. What do you want people to do? What do you want them to do? Again, we get excited about our vision. And then when people say, okay, you got me, you got me with your story. You told me your why, and I saw your website and it's engaging and the visuals are great and looks like you're doing some great work, or you're wanting to do some great work. What do you want me to do? And then you're like, oh, give me money. Like, I need some money. Like, okay, Oh, okay. Well, how much? I don't know, $100, $50. When you start communicating with people like that and you're not even confident in what you need, you don't even know what you're asking them for, that turns people off. And I'm hoping, and I'm telling you these things, right, because it's part of the Nonprofit Visionary Academy, the online modules that I've created for you: Dream Your Nonprofit in a Weekend and Seed Your Nonprofit for Success. So if you've gone through those modules, then you already know this. You're already familiar with this. But if you haven't, I encourage you to go to the website, ShalitaO'Neal.com, and to sign up for the Nonprofit Visionary Academy and enroll in the Dream Your Nonprofit in a Weekend, because we go over, how do you determine your niche, your programming, your outcomes, your budget. There are templates in there for your budget, because I can't tell you how many people who say that they run organizations and I ask them what their budget is and they cannot answer it. Do not be one of those people. Part of being able to ask for what you want is you have to know what you need. And part of that is, what is your budget? What are you needing to operate? In the best case scenario, what are you needing to operate to be able to do your work? And how can people feed into that? So whether it's them giving you money, or whether it's them providing an in-kind service that you don't have to pay for, because that is still just as good as money. So know exactly what you want from people. It might be you need an attorney to look over your books. It might be that you need an admin person to help you with certain things, and somebody that wants to volunteer their time. It might be that you need board members. So know what your call to action is and what you want people to do. Be very clear about it. Okay. So let's talk about, let's see. It was very clear. Be very clear. So what I want to explain to you, to go into more detail, is about the whole ambassador structure and how does that incorporate the network marketing principles and model into that. And so what I'm trying to explain to you, if you see here, is that first and foremost, your board members, again, should be your first ambassadors. They are volunteers for the organization. They are ambassadors for the organization. So you see that I have here your board member, and I'll put your board member here in the middle. So you should have an expectation of your board members that they're going to raise a certain amount of money for your organization. And if for whatever reason the person that you're talking to, who you think would be a good board member, completely shies away from that and says, I can't help you raise no money, I can't do that, I ain't willing to do that, they're not a board member for you. They can help the organization in other ways. They can volunteer in other ways. But right now, when we're talking about board members, you need to have an expectation and even have, be very vetted about who you bring on as your board as well, or your board members as well. You need to have expectations in writing of what you expect from the people who are going to be your board members. And one of those things should be a minimum amount of money that they are going to either give out of their own pockets or that they are going to get from their network. So it could be that they go into their own bank account, or they could sell 10 tickets at $50 a piece. That's not a lot of expectation for board members. Okay. So, but you need to have some expectation in place. Some people have $500 a year as an expectation. Some people have $1,000, depending on how big or small you are. There's some nonprofit organizations that require board members to raise $10,000 or more individually to be on the board. So please know that having that expectation is normal. And if people shy away from it, then maybe there's another role for them. But you cannot deliver programs and services without funding or with people who are skittish about it, because the reality of it is we are all fundraisers. We just fundraise for things that are a priority for us, and we don't call it fundraising. So when you tell someone to go to Target and get this new blanket that you saw that was on sale for $19.99 because it's so amazing and beautiful, and you send 10 people to go to Target and they've spent, after some taxes, where they spent $20 on this blanket, you just helped Target raise $200. You fundraise for them. And guess what you get in return? Absolutely nothing. If anything, you'll be back to spend more money and tell more people about how great they are. So Everyone's a fundraiser. It's just about putting it into perspective. So back to the board member, this setup here, the visual around how this could work. So let's say your board member comes on and your expectation is for them to raise $1,000 for the organization. We're just going to keep it at that, $1,000. But it's also your expectation that they bring on 5 other people that will do the same thing. So this might start looking a little bit familiar, or sounding a little bit familiar as it pertains to network marketing model and the principles that they have. And they'll, for them, people will call it a pyramid. This is not a pyramid. This is clearly a different structure. But the principle is that you have one person that's making a commitment to a certain amount of money, and you are expecting them to go out and recruit, because that's what you're doing. When you get donors for your organization, you are recruiting individuals, you're recruiting people. Sometimes in the nonprofit world, we put little words or titles on labels on things that make people feel more comfortable, but it's all the same thing. You are recruiting, you are engaging others to come and be a part of your organization and raise money for your organization. So let's say you got your board member, it's given $1,000. They have recruited 5 other people to do the same thing. And so right there, that's $6,000. $6,000 into your organization from one board member. Let's say you have 6 board members. That becomes $36,000 just from your board alone. And then if you take it a step further and you say, okay, board member, you went out here and you recruited 5 ambassadors for our organization. And these 5 ambassadors have given $1,000 each through events that they have done on behalf of the organization or funds that they have just donated. But then these 5 ambassadors have also gone out and recruited and engaged another 4 or 5 ambassadors. So what goes from $36,000 from engaging your board members, 36 people total, your board members and the people that they're bringing on, turns into $220,000. So if you're looking at this, and it may take a little time to register and to process, right? Because this is actually putting a visual to what happens haphazardly when we are out here in the community raising funds. And a lot of times we only do activities that get small amounts of money on a one-time basis. And we don't even think about the people who even give $20 or $25 to our organization as potential ambassadors to do more or to give more, or as people who need support to be able to do and to give more. We're not deliberate about it. We have an event, we collect the funds, we keep it moving. And if you do get their email address, you might send them something every once in a while asking them for some more money, hoping to get it. That is not what is not effective. It's not efficient. And it is not going to be helpful in you really being deliberate about building out your network. So if you look at this based off what I just described and explained, is having your board members as being the first ambassadors to your organization who are committed to raising $1,000, at least $1,000 themselves out of their own pockets, right? Or their own networks, however they want to do it. They can sell some tickets to something, they can do, whatever, but there's that $1,000 expectation from them. But it's also an expectation that they reach out to 5 other, and you can increase the amount of ambassadors that you want board members to reach out to. You can decrease the amount of people you want them to reach out to. For the purposes of me explaining the model, I'm saying 5 because that's what I have here. But it could be whatever you want it to be, and the minimum amounts can also be whatever you want it to be. But for demonstration purposes and to help you really see what I'm trying to explain, I've just put $1,000 on it to help you see that. Okay, so again, this is your organization. You do what you want to do, and what you think is right. But I'm just going to show you the model of how you can plug into it to do what's right for you. But you see how quickly $1,000 from a board member turns into $220,000 off of 6 board members recruiting 10 people, okay, at $1,000. So do your math. I'll stop there. But if you can get the idea of what happens when we keep going on and on and on, what if, there's more ambassadors that recruit other ambassadors that that give more than 1,000, because there will be some people whose jobs, well, they have employee giving programs, so they have grants at their jobs that they give to organizations that their employees really care about. So let's say, instead of that $1,000, you got people that are getting $5,000 or matches, like $5,000 match, or $1,000. They give $1,000 and their company gives $1,000, and then there's $2,000. So this is being kind of modest, y'all. I really want you to open up your mind about what's possible as it pertains to fundraising for nonprofit organizations. We tend to think that it's hard, and I'm not going to say that it's easy, but you're making it harder than it has to be by really being intimidated by the money and by asking people to do things like this, because people want to help. And there are large organizations out here who their nonprofit execs are getting paid buku dollars. And, they're really big organizations because they understand this, because they understand the importance of individuals. And what I want to also make clear to you is that even though we're in a world where we talk a lot about fundraising or foundation dollars, but also be aware that it's important to diversify the income that's coming into your nonprofit organization, because if something goes wrong or if you lose one source of income, you don't want that to interfere with the programming that you already have in place. So, for example, you should be open to different types of revenue, like fee for service. So if you have a training or if you have a curriculum or something that your organization has packaged, consider selling that to other organizations who may have a need for what you have. That can be another layer of support or added resource coming into the organization. Think about subcontracting. A lot of us with the nonprofit, especially, I hear a lot with new nonprofit organizations that say, well, I want to apply for this federal grant. Someone told me they can write this grant for me and, I could get millions of dollars. Now, you've heard me tell you before that if you're a newer organization, less than 3 years old, your chances of getting a federal grant are very slim. However, you subcontracting with maybe a larger organization that has a track record, that has gotten federal or large foundation dollars, you can be a subcontractor to them and provide a service that maybe they said that they were going to provide in their proposal, but they don't actually offer. It happens so much. So think about that. But all in all, the only way you're going to know about these types of opportunities, whether it's a fee-for-service opportunity or subcontracting on a federal grant, or even with your local Department of Human Services, if you are working with in human services, or providing different programming for maybe the aging, or for young people, or whatever the case may be, there may be an opportunity for you to provide a service directly with an agency and get contracts with that agency as well. But it's important that you focus on the individuals that are engaged with your organization, starting with your board members, because the only way you're going to know about those opportunities is through them. They may either work at an organization that has a funding opportunity, they may know someone who's there, and they can vouch for you. So never underestimate the power of building out your individual donor base, because it will lead you to larger funding and opportunities to diversify your funding so that you can ensure the sustainability of your organization. Now, let's talk more about what are you going to need to be able to do in support of these ambassadors that you have, your board members, but also the volunteers that your board members have engaged around your organization. You're going to need to be able to educate and support them. You have these folks in place. If something comes up and they need some type of support or need some sort of information, you want to make sure that there's someone at the organization, preferably a board member, that is in charge of connecting with any volunteer ambassadors that may have questions or need some type of support. You can even, even if it cannot be your board member, maybe a staff person that you have that's specifically in charge of connecting with them. You also want to provide ongoing training, support, and development. So I'm likening, like I said, this to network marketing. one thing that they do very well, these companies do very well, is they make sure that the business owners or the independent business owners that they bring onto their team have all the information that they need if anything should come up. There's templates there. They don't have to guess about how to troubleshoot different issues. It's all there. We need to do the same thing with our nonprofits when we engage our volunteers and people that are representing our organization. Make sure that you have, let's say there are people who are naturally good at fundraising, but then there's other people who feel like they don't know a thing about fundraising, even though all of us fundraise in different ways for other entities. We are just unaware that we're doing it, right? So it's up to us and up to you as a nonprofit leader to make sure that you have training, development, and additional resources available to those people so that it makes it easier for them to raise money for your organization. You also want to make sure that you acknowledge high performance through monthly recognition or announcements. If you could do this through social media, making sure that your platforms are set up properly so that you can give people a shout out. Because honestly, at the end of the day, people just want to be recognized, especially if they are putting their heart and soul or dedicating their time to raising money for you and your organization. The least you can do is make sure that you shout them out. That also keeps them engaged. And even if you have quarterly or annual recognition events, you've heard of them. We have the galas, every year different people will have different events like that. They're large annual appeal events to thank the donors that have given to them throughout the year. And they'll give little awards and things like that to folks. I mean, the award may cost you $1 to make, but the lasting effect that it has and it shows appreciation that you actually care and you're grateful for what people are contributing to your organization. So don't take that lightly. Make sure that you take advantage of that. Also, you should use a peer-to-peer fundraising app in order to be able to keep everything organized. So if you, in the day and age of technology, it's easier to be able to use an app where your board members everything's uploaded there with the logo, with your branding, and they don't really have to think about, what the language is or different templates that they can send out to their networks. You should use something where that's already in place. They can plug and play. You can go in on the other end on the what they call the dashboard or the back end, and you can see what each of your board members are doing and how close they are to the goal that you've set for them as their fundraising goal for the year. One app that I suggest and recommend and that I use with my foundation is called Give Lively. So that's Give Lively, GIVELY. lively.org. It's a free peer-to-peer fundraising app where you can embed it on your website. They have donation pages that you can embed. It's really cool. So take a look at it. And I was just blown away by the fact that it was free because I've used other peer-to-peer platforms or apps, and they can range from $3,000 to $4,000 a year. So make sure that you look into that because it makes it easier. Even the text to give that you see out there a lot, that has that capability too. So someone can text 43421, or alumni success or whatever term you decide, and they can text that to a certain number and they can donate that way. So those are things that I can recommend. You want to make sure, again, that you are educating, you're supporting your board members, the ambassadors to the organization, so they feel confident that when they go out here into the world to advocate for you, that you have their back and they know what they're saying. For instance, with any network marketing company, you notice that there's a director that's assigned to the people that are under them. So for example, if you came into a network marketing company, like I've done almost all of them, but for instance, like Mary Kay, I used to be a Mary Kay consultant. And when I would come in, I'm a newbie, I'm green, I'm ready to go, I've got all this excitement. And then once I hit a couple of bumps in the road, one, I need to be able to contact the director. They typically had a director that's in the region or in the area where you are that you can reach out to for that added layer of support, or for recommendations or advice on how you're supposed to get started, the best way to go about doing your events. It's the same concept with you and your organization. You want to make sure that you have someone in place that's assigned to the volunteers or the ambassadors that come into your organization for when they need some advice or feedback on maybe some fundraising events that they can do for you, or if they're having an issue or getting pushback from their networks about certain things and they're not confident in how to answer certain questions, there is somebody that they can go to. Okay, you see where I'm going with this? I'm likening it to how deliberate and intentional that companies are, and in particular network marketing companies are, in cultivating their networks and cultivating the networks of the what they call the independent business owners, what we're calling for you, your volunteers. It's an intentional thing. And in the nonprofit world, we have to be just as intentional about how we build our relationships, how we maintain our relationships, and how we make sure that the relationships that we've built will be sustaining and that people feel like they're connected and supported. So that leads me into our next part when we're talking about cultivating the relationships or cultivating your donors. So donors are people with feelings, lives, and interests too. It's not just about, oh, I'm gonna get this money from them, thank you for your donation, or even we go back to earlier where you have your board members who recruit volunteer ambassadors who have an event for you. And after the event is over, you're like, okay, great, thank you. That's it. No, the event is just a way for you to, again, further cultivate the networks of the volunteer ambassador, because you want to make sure that you know the people or know of the people that have come to the event and that are putting in this extra effort. You're going to have ambassadors some that outperform others. There's some that will raise $10,000 for you, and there's some that will raise $100 for you. They're all very important, but for those who are putting in the extra effort, just as the same as you are going out of your way to recognize them at your annual events or quarterly events, you also want to make sure you make it a point to connect with them individually. This is the science of relationship development. You want to make sure you meet with them individually and just check in on them as people. This is not superficial. This is not inauthentic. I'm talking about coming from a real space of wanting to connect with the people on a human level that are helping you to build your organization and move your work forward. You must take the time out. And just as we've talked about building an effective tribe with your nonprofit organization, this is very important, because if you do that, you'll have the time to be able to dedicate to pouring into and connecting with the high performers in your organization or your high performing ambassadors. Put an extra effort to make sure that you're providing consistent and diverse communications. So if something happens at your organization, let's say you're in the news, there's an article that came out about the work that you've done. Amazing, right? They want to know about this. Make sure that you email them that article or send them a copy of the paper that your article appears in. Send them links, shout them out on social media. Make sure that they know what you're doing and what their efforts have made possible for your organization, because it will propel them forward and make them want to do more of that. And be very thoughtful, right, about how you say thank you. It doesn't have to be expensive. You don't have to break the bank or be gaudy in any way, but do little things like get promotional items. For my foundations, I will get small magnets that have different inspirational quotes on it. It'll say inspire, dream, and then it'll have one of the magnets has our logo on it. And I give that to folks who donate more than $100 to the organization. We send those out because, you also have to be mindful. You have limited amounts of promotional material, so you can't just give it out to everybody. But, and that limit or whatever that may be is up to you and what you decide. But for me, if someone gives $100 or more, we send them a little packet of magnets and, along with the thank you letter and the tax ID letter. Think about things like that in ways that you can say thank you. And also it's practical that people will actually use it. So people love magnets. They'll put them up on the refrigerator. And when they look at it, they'll think of you. When they look at it and they, oh, yeah, I did give to the FCN Foundation. I wonder what they're doing. So make sure that you are thinking about those types of things and putting in that little extra effort to learn about what they care about. It's not just about you. And sometimes in the nonprofit world, nonprofit visionaries, nonprofit leaders, we've got so much work to do, and we get laser focused on what we need and what we want. But it's a two-way street. Just as with any healthy relationship, it's reciprocal. So you ask them about what they care about. What are their kids doing? What are their kids' names? Oh, they came home for the holidays. Oh, wonderful. How was that? Make sure that you're checking on that. Or you might be reading something and it has nothing to do with your nonprofit, but you know that one of your board members or one of your ambassadors that are high performing, they are interested in this topic. Send them the link. Just say, hey, I thought about you when I saw this. What do you think about this? Because you are developing a reciprocal relationship, and that shows that you care about them too. It's not just all about you. It's about them too. Very, very, very important. This thing here is the art of networking. It's the art of relationship building. And that is what fundraising is truly all about. It's not about writing some words down on a piece of paper and submitting it to someone or to an organization and then crossing your fingers and hoping that you get funding. It is not about that. It's not about making one phone call and then if they say no, you don't follow up anymore. Or if you get a grant, you don't follow up with them until they ask for the report. You need to keep in consistent communication with people and be very intentional about how you do that if you're going to grow your organization. And really, we're talking about longevity. We're not just talking about, okay, well, I'm just trying to get through this year, which we all are, trying to get through the year, trying to make sure we have what we need to do our programming. But I challenge you to think a little bit deeper about it. So I hope that this webinar has helped you to think differently about your networks, because a lot of times we will say, well, I don't know anybody. I don't have any networks. That's not true. Now with your nonprofit vision, it's your responsibility to show people that vision in a way that ignites a passion in them, that intrigues them, that makes them want to get involved with you. And once you do that, you have a responsibility to make sure that they're informed, that they're supported, that you also support them in such a way that they want to bring their networks in. They want to tell the whole world about you because of how wonderful you are. That is organically, word of mouth will never, ever, ever go out of style. It will never, I don't care what technology comes out, what may happen. People will always, the word of mouth and how you make people feel and how you engage them and how you're deliberate about it is going to determine the success, the financial success of your organization. So as a recap, we want to make sure that we prepare. Make sure that you prepare. If you're talking about wanting to raise funds or grow your current network, you want to make sure you're ready for that. Make sure that your website is up to par, that your branding speaks to what you do, and that it's not something that people are ashamed to share. You don't want pity from folks. You want people to be proud of who you are and proud to be associated with what you do. So make sure that your website, your branding is together. Make sure you are clear on the type of ambassador or volunteer ambassador that you want to engage around your organization. Be very clear about that. Make sure that you're using your social media and your website to recruit and invite people to come to an event to learn more about what you're doing. It's one thing to talk about it, but people actually want to see what you're doing. Make sure that you're prepared for that and that they can go to your website and get the information that they need. Don't leave your story out. Make sure that you are telling your story and tying it into why people should care and how that affects the population that you care about and that your organization is working with. Make sure you have a call to action so that people know exactly what you want. You can't just move them to do something and then don't tell them what it is that they want or that you want and that you need. Make sure that you know what your budget is, so that when you're asking people for support and you're asking, hey, I need $10,000. Okay, well, what is that $10,000 going towards, and how does that fit into your overall budget? Make sure you're clear on that. Okay. Then make sure that you're educating and supporting the people that you've brought on who are anxious and excited about your organization and ready to tap into their organizations. Make sure that they have training and development available for them. Make sure that there is someone on the board or someone on staff to be that support person, so that they can get advice from them if they run into any roadblocks, or just someone to keep them energized about what you in the organization is doing. Make sure you're acknowledging your high performers because they're human. Make sure that you are connecting to them and you're cultivating them in a way that's authentic, that's reciprocal, that shows you care about them, you care about their efforts. You also are taking the time out to keep them informed regularly about the things that you care about and that your organization is doing, as well as anything that you come across that they may care about. Thank you for tuning in to the Network Marketing for Nonprofits webinar. I truly hope you found the information helpful. If I could be of any additional support to you, don't hesitate to reach out. Make sure you visit the website, ShalitaO'Neal.com, and take a look at the hashtag Nonprofit No Filter membership. If you need ongoing access to different nonprofit templates, or if you want to have access to the online courses that I've developed, as well as maybe some one-on-one coaching time with me, make sure you sign up and take a look what that entails. And to get more information about upcoming webinars and different resources that I have for you, because you know what? I want to see you successful. So onward and upward. Until next time, be blessed.